All right. Okay. I'm just curious, what were you doing before this?
I was going for a sunset walk.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was
On the
feeling,
beach?
no, actually up in the hills of my neighborhood. There's this great little path about maybe, I don't know, 2 miles from here, a mile and a half from here. Yeah, so I was just cruising the hills and enjoying nature and gorgeous. I love like the light right before sunset is so pretty, and the light right
Mm.
after sunset is just like golden and glowing. So it's nice to get to a high vantage point and enjoy that and cruise around, get some fresh air.
Yeah, nice. Well, happy
Yeah.
Sunday to you. I'm so happy we get to meet and see
I
each
know.
other's faces. I know we just talked the other day for quite a while, but it's so beautiful to see your face. I love you. I miss you so much.
Same. It's so heartwarming every time. It's so amazing. Like we can have a span of time where we don't actually have face-to-face contact or voice-to-voice contact. And then we can have like multiple little contacts in a row, and each one feels so potent and powerful and enlivening and inspiring. It's just, yeah. So thank you for putting this on the calendar because I
No,
so
I
appreciate
know. I know. I love you so much. And I couldn't agree more. And that's why we're doing this. So
it.
let's um I just wanted us to get going and talking because there have been so many times that halfway through a conversation we say, shit, I wish this was recorded.
Totally.
And I
Well,
don't even know why. I don't even know why we say that, but that really is the impetus for why we are here today recording, why there's this crazy idea of starting a podcast. And so here we go. Let's just start and kind of just jump into this in as free a place as possible. But so just so people know who you are, people don't even know who I am, really. Let's be honest. This is like the beginning of this big, huge journey that I have no idea where it's going to go to. But yeah, so I have known you, Drisana Carey, is our co-host honoree. She and I definitely talked about having a podcast together, but as many acupuncturists, they're so busy. Their plates are full, their clinics are full, but on top of that, they are incredible people. So behind a busy, successful clinic is also a very busy, successful social life. And I know that is you more than anything. So I'm happy to hold the space and create space for us to have conversations. And unlike other podcasts where sometimes you have a host and you have like guests that change all the time, Drisana is going to be a regular. She is going to be a regular guest / our honorary co-host. So if her time ever opens up, she knows she's totally got the freedom and the space to be a host and interview people and share her wisdom. But Drisana and I go way back. I consider her one of my best friends, but that sounds so lame, honestly, to use that term because it's something so much more rich than that. Soul family. We are not blood family, but soul family, and not just from this lifetime, but many lifetimes. And I think we both see and recognize that. And the minute that we get together, kind of time space continuum dissolves and life happens then all around us, and we have no idea what's going on. So part of why we want to come together and have these conversations together are because we seem to have a very similar perspective of the way a lot of world happens around us, both being mixed women in medicine and not just allopathic medicine, but we chose the very least path taken in the United States at the time, 10 years ago, which was Chinese medicine, East Asian medicine, sometimes known as traditional East Asian medicine and acupuncture. And so we really have this kind of unique perspective of life, the world, medicine, healing, and we can't stop talking about it anytime we come together. I mean, we talk about other crazy cool stuff too, but we really wanted to come together and share some of these conversations we have, knowing that we don't have all the answers. In fact, we still feel like babies when it comes to Asian medicine, Chinese medicine, acupuncture, but we've also been doing it long enough that we can still feel like babies. We've just taken maybe 10 more steps in front of someone else. Not a lot, but we're just slightly down the path a little further. Another way of saying that is we've digested some of some of the theoretical stuff, and we've been in practice long enough to also see how it works in real life.
Mm.
Okay, so that's kind of like why she's here, why she'll be on a lot, and why we love her. But a really short, I want to share with everyone just some more about you in terms of like who you are, and then I'll turn it over to you. But so Drisana has been engaged with professional clients, mostly acupuncture, but she has a host of hands-on modalities. I'll let you share all of those because that list is longer than I can even go into. She's been working with clients for over 10 years with a private practice in North County. She was in San Diego, but she's now in North County, San Diego. She has been practicing yoga seriously since 2001 and has been teaching or guiding classes since 2004. For the last, 2 years now, since about 2020, you've also been fully engaged in as a meditation retreat facilitator, right? Yeah, beautiful. And besides being a phenomenal clinician, I get treatments from her when I'm in Southern California. Magic runs through her veins and her fingers. She's also a runner, skier, outdoor enthusiast, deeply steeped in the practice and joy of tea. We'll get into that. That's going to be a whole nother episode. She's truly a lover of enjoying and creating deeply nourishing, vibrant meals. So true. She has traveled the world inside and out so many times. I think I'm a world travel, but this girl has me beat. And she is truly one of the most heart-centered people, always thinking about others, so giving to her family, her friends, people she doesn't even know. She's just a giver. And yeah, so
Thank you.
You were just magic. You are pure magic in a human body. And that's why I'm so excited to be doing this with you today. And every day and all the times that we've connected through all the lifetimes. But okay, so enough about me. You tell me about you now.
I feel like enough about me. Tell everyone about you. Thank you. Just as always, you radiate and glow, and the light that you spread is so intelligent, brilliant, compassionate, and creative and fun-loving. Like just the spark that you have to share is just, I'm so grateful that you have created a platform to share it, because it is, I know, so genuinely valuable. And I think a lot of our culture is thirsty for this right now, for these topics that we are passionate about. And I love how you put that we are young babies in this medicine. And yet, yeah, maybe we're about 10 steps ahead of some people. And I am so grateful to, I know you are as well, to have been immersed in the wisdom of so many amazing people who have come before us in both East Asian medicine and in other modalities, in yoga and spirituality and meditation. We've had the pleasure and the honor of soaking up so much wisdom. And I think we both agree that the best way to actually honor that is to share it and enjoy it and play with it. And to do so audibly is just such a gift. So I'm just thrilled to be here. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So in your own words, we already said, we know you're in North County, San Diego. You don't have to get specific, but like, what does your day look like? What are you doing these days besides, acupuncture is such like a limiting term for you. I know that. So like, what does your practice look like? What are you doing these days?
Well,
and for who? Like, is there a specific population, for who?
Yes. So my daily practice starts with tea. And genuinely, the practice that I am running now is very similar to a practice I started when I was, just out of school. And it's also just, there's so many different layers to it now that like from a an hour standpoint, I get to the clinic around 8:30, and I'm starting to treat people at 9. And the way that I structure um, my interaction with people is that I generally only see one person at a time. So when someone's in my clinic, it's just them. Where I've worked in multi-dimensional clinics and multi-practitioners and different disciplines where each person may have 2 or 3 rooms going, or up to 6. I mean, my mentor had like 6 rooms going, and we needed 4 assistants to be able to help to make sure that everything was running smoothly and timely and efficaciously and everything. And I appreciate that dynamic, fiery nature. And I really enjoy having the sacred time and the concentrated space to have one person incubating in whatever it is that they need for the day. And honestly, like sometimes it looks like there's no agenda from my point, like from the beginning, because I'm open to whatever that person needs in the moment. And oftentimes we set the, next week's treatment plan. I want it to include this, this, and this, these different focuses, these different questions. And I'll do that at the end of a session, but there's always a blank page for when I'm working with someone, because they may have come in from, who knows, not eating. And so that can throw out some treatment that I had thought that would be beneficial, or they may not have worked out in 2 weeks. And so we're going to do a yoga flow. We're going to go for a walk up a hill. We're going to be doing something that's actually whatever their body is actually needing in the moment. And it is typically also on the table with needles, but not always. So long answer to say it looks rather dynamic, but I'm typically seeing about 5 clients a day, 5 people a day. And I try and do a good little workout lunch break in between when I can, French style, for like 2 hours, and go for a good workout and sit down and have a great meal. And then there's other days where I'm just intermittent fasting. Enjoying the dynamic nature of a busy day.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. I'm reading between the lines. I got you. So besides acupuncture, I know you have trained in just so many modalities. And I would say, like, if someone asked me what your specialty is, I would say something like sports medicine or orthopedics. Would you agree with that? Or is that too limiting?
No, absolutely. That's still my primary focus. I call myself a sports orthopedic acupuncturist for sure. Okay. I'm still true to my roots. And if someone comes in and they just want to focus on breath work and meditation and yoga, then we'll focus on that. But I'd say the majority of my clients are athletes, whether they're professional athletes or just avid enthusiasts. Yes.
Yeah, because that is definitely your background, right? Collegiate, collegiate, all the different stars and accolades. Yeah. So Drisana, she is one of the most humble people you will ever meet, but behind this like very humble facade is a very, very talented, I didn't plan on swearing this much, but a very badass woman who is the most humble person. So so that makes sense that you're soaked into sports medicine, into treating athletes, weekend warriors, not so weekend warriors, everything. Mostly men, mostly women, both mixed?
Both. Yeah. Honestly, it's been, it always fluctuates. I love treating a preventative medicine path, like maintenance mode for people who are in that realm. And there's always a revolving door of people who are working on, I call them projects, like a pain project or a realignment project or whatever. And so my typical orientation is, let's see how far we can get in 4 treatments, as close together as we can. And then so that door is constantly evolving. So, and it just depends on how many people at any given season are interested in like just getting back to what they were doing before, and they don't really need to come in for maintenance, or how many are really interested in, oh, there's more to this than just coming to work on a project that I can
Yeah.
see a blaring sign. And there's so much to I mean, this is such an incredibly valuable preventative medicine and longevity medicine practice that, and it feels like there's a stronger, at least in my world, there's a stronger curiosity and openness and investment in that realm. Like it feels like preventative medicine is becoming much more common and popular than it ever was when we were first going to school. Like the concept,
Yeah.
when we were first in school, I was like, why would I go see someone if nothing's wrong?
Right.
Why would I
And
make
that's
it a point if nothing's wrong? I'm fine.
and don't you feel like that's kind of what we learned in school too, is how to be fixers? Like people are going to come into you and they're going to have these quote unquote chief complaints. Is that what you're saying your projects are, is synonymous to what we would have learned as a chief complaint, possibly?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So more of the
problem.
the problem or the chief complaint, what you're going to see a doctor for, essentially. Which has also changed since we were at school, because when we were in school, there was no degree of doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. So that's even evolved since the time that we've graduated. But so they're coming in with a chief complaint, and you try to best, with all our different tools, not just acupuncture, but gua sha, massage, qigong, breath, meditation, lifestyle, all of these things. I don't think a lot of people know that when they're going to an acupuncturist, acupuncture is one tool underneath an umbrella of Chinese medicine, which is a complete system of medicine, both internal medicine, musculoskeletal, mental health, even into the spiritual, right? And then even beyond that into preventative medicine, like you said. And that's where people are finally waking up, like, oh, preventative medicine is not just a baby aspirin a day. Oh, there's more to that. Like, and God bless baby aspirin. Like, how many lives does baby aspirin save? But maybe the definition of preventative medicine is so much richer than, I guess, the conversations that have been around quote unquote prevention for so long, right? And this is what we talk about all the time, right?
Absolutely. I think my orientation and your orientation are very similar in that we're constantly looking to optimize. And now it feels like there's a whole new orientation for our culture to optimize health, especially where I happen to be living right now in North County, San Diego, and Solana Beach, Encinitas. Everyone's looking for their best life, for sure. Right. I may use the term everyone loosely, but and using our both our knowledge and our technologies, and then whether it's breath work or learning how to deeply relax or learning how to optimize your workouts. Like the more pinnacle athletes are recognizing there are systems and cycles that we can tune into, both with the seasons, women with their own cycles, that you can use that, harness that energy to slingshot the momentum of your training, and you're going to get way more results. And so athletes know that term of optimization, of course, but now I think that it's becoming much more appealing and interesting, or at least piquing curiosity in general health too. It's no longer just, okay, can I get over this injury or this sickness, but how good can I feel? Like, why do you think that's
changed? Like, why do you think people are getting interested in this optimization?
I would guess it's just human evolution. I would hope.
Let's hope. And that's where I am too. Like, are we there yet? Are we at the place where we're having these conversations?
I would hope. It's interesting for me to watch, because I have had friends that I've known for 20 plus years, and who have watched me go through school with varying degrees of curiosity about what it is that I do, actually, what I'm interested in. And I have to admit, articulating the philosophy that I first was introduced to through East Asian medicine was tricky and uncomfortable in the culture of do like sleep when you're dead, do or die, like, yeah, let's run a marathon, go drink the night before and wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go for a 10-mile run. Like the, yeah, excuse my language, but the balls to the wall type of lifestyle that I and my friends have totally enjoyed for most of our 20s and into our 30s really rubbed up against the friction of the longevity medicine and the value system and the culture around that type of like just the aura of someone who can handle all that. It challenges that power by shifting and looking at like, well, maybe that's actually not at the healthiest way of orienting life. And, there's, for me, for sure, there was some ego involved in like disassembling that self-identity. And
when did that happen? Did that happen in school for you? Like when we were in acupuncture, Chinese medicine school, did that ego?
I was still wrapped up in the balls to the wall.
Even in school, really? So when we met, by the way, we met in Chinese medicine school.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, for sure.
So this has been an ongoing unraveling of, so what happened? What made you realize I can no longer continue to live in this, I'm going to call it yang dominant, like the action, go, the human doing. Was there a moment? Was there a time? Like, how did that shift happen for you?
I appreciate the yang dominant verbiage because it was in realizing that culture itself, that our culture, Western culture, is very imbalanced in the yang dominance. I recognized that first before I recognized how pathological my yang energy was. And I think, let's see, I don't know if I'd have to think about it, but I would have to say probably in my third or fourth to fourth year of practice, I started to recognize more imbalances within myself because I could get away with a lot. And when I recognized that what I was getting away with wasn't necessarily optimally healthy, then I started the slow descent out of that pattern. And I don't know if there was a moment where I hit like a bottom point and started going in the other direction, but I'll say there has been massive transformation in the past 2 years for sure, for me individually. It's been my own human evolution process.
Yeah, I mean, we're all going through that. Like, what the F does it mean to be a human right now? Or what does it mean to be a spirit in a human body? Whichever way you're looking at that phrase, me, I'm awful with quotes and phrases, but like we're spirits having a human experience. But I also feel like, what does it mean to be a human and with a spirit? Like it goes either way. It's the same side of the coin. But this last 2 years, I think for so many people has been, I mean, like you said earlier, we have so many teachers and we just are like so blessed to have lives full of people that are older than us. Their aunties, their uncles, their grandmothers, their grandfathers, but there are teachers. And so I also don't think that is necessarily quite, you don't necessarily see that, especially at our age group, because we're still in our 20s, No, I'm joking. But it just comes with it comes with the medicine, right? It comes with the practice and it comes with our background, both in yoga and interest in these other ancient traditional practices that you end up having teachers in different levels and ways reflecting, but all of that to say that even the last 2 years, these last 2 years being like the big global pandemic time frame is I don't know a single teacher, no matter how enlightened I would put that title on them, who has not also gone into the deep depths of reflecting what it means to be alive, what it means to be a
Yeah.
human. How do I want to spend my time? What does it mean to have spirit, to be connected with spirit, to be connected with nature, to be connected with the rhythms? I mean, I don't know a single person who has not been influenced deeply in some way or the other. Like you and I, we are the type of people who we would actively go to an ashram and be told, like seek an ashram experience to be told, like we know we don't want to see anyone, we don't want to talk to anyone, we only want to eat very specific food for a week, a month, 6 months, and we'd be like, yeah, okay, game on, let's go, let's do it. But when you're forced to do that, when you're forced to stay in your house and not interact with people and not have those same rhythms of your go, do, as in like shitty list, but also your to-do list, because that's what the inertia is doing. My heart goes out to those people who weren't seeking an ashram experience and bam, life forced them into one, right?
100%.
Have you seen that in your conversations too? Like this.
It's been so fascinating to watch different friends and how they've, people around me and how they've interacted with this forced, sequestered, minimalist lifestyle that has been really just handed to you. And like, I've been really inspired by how many of my friends actually really embraced a lot of the aspects that you just nailed. Is like when you are asked to give up the external like forces that are typically occupying your time and your attention and your energy, when you're forced to give all of that up and it just like wiped the slate clean. I was really inspired by a lot of friends who were like, this is kind of awesome. In a weird way, this is kind of amazing. Like my kids play better together now. Like they're like, and my friends who don't study this medicine, but they're like, I feel calmer. Like my nervous system feels different. It's so rad. And then, the honesty of like, no, I miss being able to go out to a bar and have a drink with a friend. Of course, like there's all these things that those primal, or not primal, but the primal desires that have been previously just at your fingertips whenever you want, to be able to fulfill them, whether it's connection or a different type of food or a workout group or yoga class or whatever it may be, or just a spontaneous trip, like all of these different aspects of our lives that we've just were so comfortable with and uncomfortable with, truly, they're just gone in moments. And there's just this like deafening silence and uncertainty. And I think it was an excellent opportunity to notice just how, as a human being, you wanted to interact with this new reality. Like I can get angry at the establishment. I can get pissed at someone taking away my rights. Like there is that totally valid pathway or orientation towards where you're going to put your energy and your thoughts. And there's also, and that can be present along with a reverence for, luckily I'm blessed to be in a place where financially fine, like my Maslow's higher needs are met. And I also know that there are lots of people who don't have access to that. And so I think that there's such a spectrum of realities that are at play. And for me, my orientation has been really centered around how grateful can I be for everything that I do have in place. And the orientation towards, I love, like the first 2 months, I loved being a hermit. I was like, mandatory meditation all
Yeah,
day.
I know. You're like, did I actually
Right?
call this in? Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, at the
Yeah.
time I was sharing a house with an Ayurvedic chef. and, and yeah, she was cooking meals 24/7. It was amazing. And yeah. And yeah, it was such a stark. I mean, it's weird getting thrown into the deep end of a luxuriously introspective pool. It's
Well
not like
said.
you signed up for the retreat and you planned and you packed and you got ready. It was just like, all right, and here I
Yeah,
am.
we're all there. Yeah, we're all there, whether we want to be or not. Yeah.
Totally. But
So,
I do think that that has a lot to do with this awakening that I'm at least noticing, especially in this North County environment of, all right, well, how can I optimize my breath, my
mm,
nervous system, my relationships, my emotional intelligence, my food, my like everything. Like how can I optimize?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that preventative medicine, like that term, really has its roots in not just Chinese medicine, not just traditional Chinese medicine, not just Ayurveda, but like almost every indigenous medicine that I have studied, that I have learned about, they all have started with lifestyle. They've all started with these foundational principles of your breath.
Absolutely.
How do you move your body? What is your connection with nature? Is it through prayer? Is it through walking? Is it through
Mm-hmm.
tending to the soil? I mean, in all the ways, it really is very, very basic and very fundamental, very foundational. And why the hell is it so hard to do?
Mm.
Right? So much easier to sit here and be like, oh, that's so easy to do that. Or that sounds, my breath. Okay. Oh, move my body. Okay. But then why? Because you and I, we see it all the flipping time. To
Mm.
have these conversations with people in clinic or our friends or our family. And
Mm-hmm.
it feels like you're pulling teeth.
Mm.
Why do you think it's so hard?
Well, I have to disagree. I don't feel like it's hard.
No, tell me, enlighten
No,
me.
I don't feel like it's hard. I feel like I think that it's, well, two big things. One, I absolutely agree that like in indigenous and in I'll say non-Western medical practices, there is an intimate relationship.
Western being like like allopathic
Right,
biomedicine.
allopathic,
Okay.
exactly. In
Yeah.
non-Western, yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Okay.
which of course is practiced all over the world, but in non-Western medical disciplines, I have found, like, the ones that I've studied, that largely an intertwining between both the physical and the spiritual,
Yeah.
both the matter and the essence. And just in that orientation of respecting nature and relating to the body in maybe not the most precise, detail oriented way, but in a more nebulous and poetic way that both includes the physicality of whatever ailment or whatever optimization you're looking at, and the spirit and the animating force that really enlivens that person's mentality and mood and yeah, disposition. No, like there is a home in other cultures for an essence, a spiritual conversation, and
Yeah.
there is no home for that in allopathic medicine. There is no home for that. It is actually forbidden for many disciplines in a Western medical field to have that that influence. It's seen as taboo to all kinds of things, and I think it's rather essential in the facilitation of an easier acceptance of something that is a beneficial change, because I think our ego structures, our protectors, call
Yeah.
them, are strong and they serve us, and they can often create that contrast and resistance through some type of pain or ailment or dis-ease or feeling of discomfort when they need to be addressed. And having a more open mind to wanting to invite something that a faith or an orientation towards an evolution that I may not totally conceptually understand, but I trust. And having the autonomy to want to actually grab a hold of the steering wheel and drive in that direction. I think that has a huge influence over the ease of adopting whatever it is, a new habit, a new orientation, a new belief system, a new diet, whatever it is. And I think that is also what I'm noticing feels to be much more present now, which I appreciate. And maybe it is genuinely because I don't have a website. You have to know someone to come see me. So I have a pretty thick filtration system for the people who do come and see me. And I imagine that the waves around the way that I've been orienting are also in the waters of the people that I'm connected with. So
yeah, I was also going to say, I wonder if it has to do with your location too. Because I mean, I spent so many years down in San Diego too, and I felt like the whole world was waking up to, I guess, this conversation we're having, this idea that there's more than just the physical.
totally.
In what ways can I open my perspective, my mind, my body to something else?
Yeah.
And then I moved, and I've become a lot more cynical. Like, I can't, you like having a conversation about Qi and Prana. People see my website and they're like, what? Yeah, it's just like, I don't even know what that is. And I'm like, part of me is I mean, I've had so many business coaches tell me it was an awful choice to choose to choose that as branding, because one, spelling, no one knows what it is, all the things. But to me, I was like, oh, it's perfect. It's my filter. Like, to me, that's my filter. I want to be having the conversations with people who can see that and go, ooh, I want to, you're like, what's up with that? I want to talk with her. So to me, it was a filter too, a very deliberate one. But yeah, maybe part of it is location. Maybe
location,
cultural, like there's a different diversity in Southern California than the diversity where I've been living in the last 4, 6, 10 years. I think probably a lot of it goes into play there, and it's not better or worse. I think it is important to bring that up, though, that your perspective in Southern California, my perspective out here in Detroit. Previous to that, I was in Japan. Previous to that, I was in Kingdom of Bahrain in the Middle East. Before that, I was in, where were we before that? Virginia, like North Virginia. Yeah. And so to go from Southern California, where I'd been for 7 or 9 years, I can't even do the math anymore. That feels like so many lifetimes ago, to Virginia, to North Virginia. Even the yoga studios, it was like the language and the community around what yoga is look totally different. I would say the word Ayurveda in San Diego and people would be like, yeah, let's learn more. And then when I moved to Northern Virginia, no one knew what Ayurveda was. It was like, what? Like, this is so, mind blowing. You just move, a few thousand miles away or a few hundred miles away, and the conversations are totally different. For another reason why we're having these conversations, where you can listen to them anywhere you are around the world and be opened up to these other ideas, right? Other ideas like spirit connected with medicine. What? Yes, there's a huge, huge, rich history, like all of humanity up into the last essentially 200 years. Spirituality and medicine have been combined. There wasn't a separation between spirit and body, right? We can have these conversations about Qi, what it is, subtle body, subtle anatomy, and invite people into those conversations.
Absolutely.
Right?
So interesting. I was talking to a friend just a couple of days ago, And he was telling me how his doctor, he was going into his doctor, and he asked his doctor, who's a friend of his, he's like, just tell me I need to lose weight. Just tell me that that's what I need to do. And the
Oh, the
doctor
patient said that.
patient said that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his doctor said, I am not equipped. I'm not trained to have that conversation with you. I can put you on these medications. And we know that this is a path that can actually lower your numbers. And my friend was frustrated with them, trying to like rattle the doctor. And I recognized, I'm just so grateful that we were actually trained to have that conversation in the time that felt appropriate, because that is an essential part of medicine, of being able to both compassionately, tenderly, and strongly address the truths and the vulnerabilities that may be tethering a pattern in someone's body, and offer them the opportunity to take control in a different way that they may not have even had the ability to recognize that they had control over. And I really appreciate that the medicine that we practice, and that I know that there are different types of medicine all over the world, where understanding how to interweave the physical and the mental and the emotional and the essence, the spirit, it practicing in that way of honoring all of those multidimensional aspects of the human being also gives you the context to be able to have conversations about different layers of a person's autonomy over their own health. And I think that is just so valuable, and not something that I didn't really recognize like was missing from Western medicine in general. Like I don't want to dog on Western medicine, because I have so many friends who are doctors, who are brilliant doctors and brilliant researchers, and just recognizing the difference in a preventative medicine modality and paradigm versus a different one.
Just the paradigm itself, like the fact that we talk about Qi and Prana, or I say Qi and Prana together because I'm often weaving together Ayurveda and Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
But so in East Asian medicine, in Chinese medicine, the term Qi, right? We talk about it as if we're talking about water, or what's in your cup right now, like it's to us, it is a conversation we have, like talking about the weather for other people. And yet we still almost, like, I don't know about you, but I almost feel like I'm constantly educating, sometimes defending, but that's my own like fiery way of being like, like my own stuff comes up around that. But just the idea that there is a subtle anatomy, right? So we have our physical body, right? And we have, I think that's easy for some people to make that connection. Oh, I have a physical body. And whether they believe in a God or not, this idea of a spiritual self or a spiritual nature to themselves seems kind of like, yeah, I can grasp that in some way. But when we start talking about that middle layer, the subtle anatomy that connects the physical to the spiritual, I think is where a lot of people's minds just kind of go like either shut down or like, like, what the WTF question mark are you talking about? And that's where we like revel. That's where like the juice of the healing mechanism of the body, the innate healing mechanism of the body. Of course, it comes from the causal or the spiritual aspect of the being. But the subtle body is where we as practitioners,
we get to play.
That's like the fun part, and I think to others, it's like, whoa, what's it? So can we just like, I guess it's not a timeout, but let's talk about that for a little bit. Like, what is, how would you describe Qi or the subtle body? I know those are two very different questions, but without taking 5 hours or a dissertation, because there are people who do their entire dissertations on just one of those questions. Like, how would you describe that to someone?
Such a great question. Oh, so I guess I'll start with my first experience with subtle body awareness or Qi moving.
Oh, great idea. Yeah, experience.
Because the first time, and this, I think you asked earlier, like when my I guess awakening into like changing my pattern of behavior to be more preventative medicine oriented or more optimizing. And I'm sure it happened right around the time that I gained subtle body awareness. But I was lying on the table of a really good friend of mine. I know you know Danielle Emhoff, who practices something. She is a Western medical practitioner, trained physical therapist, and has been practicing something called integrative manual therapy for over a decade now, probably close to 15 years. And I was lying on her table, and my parents at the time were like, you got to go see this woman. She's amazing. And I'm playing volleyball, getting the master's degree, like burning the candle at all ends possible. And I thought I was fine. Didn't really have any complaints, really. I was like, I'm good. They're like, no, just go see her. And so this is the second or third treatment I had with her. I'm laying on her table. And in my head, I'm thinking, this is just an expensive nap. Like, I'm going to fall asleep again, like I always do. Like, why am I wasting time? Like, I can go home and take a nap. I probably wouldn't, but so I'm lying on the table and I feel, this is maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes into the hour session. And I'm kind of dozing in and out, and I'm awake for this part. And I feel the entire line of the gallbladder channel that I had just memorized. And I looked at her, and I mean, literally from around the ear down through the shoulder, all the way down to the fourth toe. Like, I felt something, wasn't pain, but it was like a buzzy something. And like my mind was like, what is going on? And I had never felt a channel before. And I looked at her and I said, what are you doing? And she said, oh, one of your gallbladder ducts was clogged and it just released. And I about fell off the table. I was like,
in a good way, or like get me the F out of here way?
No, like in a good way. I was floored, and I was like, what? And I told her, she doesn't know Chinese medicine. She doesn't know the channels. And I was like, I just felt the entire gallbladder channel. And she goes, yeah, cool. Like, it was just
like no brainer, of course.
And I'm like, no, but like, shit's real. What?
And you're already in school. You're like fully invested in this medicine.
Oh, I'm like I think I'm in year 2, and it was maybe just before year 2. I remember the upperclassmen saying, don't feel like you have to understand all of the things that you're learning. Just memorize it until you get to deep into year 2. And then it's going to start to just click and make sense. So I was still in the memorizing point. Like, why am I memorizing 40 plus points on like, what? All right, do it, whatever. And so it was in that sensation of the subtle that I recognized magic of movement, of there was something happening. And previously, I think my relationship with my own inner language of the body was pain or pleasure, one of those two.
Because did you grow up with a family that acknowledged Qi Prana, or did you grow up with more allopathic Western biomedicine, or like, do you have any experience before deciding to go to Chinese medicine school?
So my grandpa was a doctor.
Okay.
He was a doctor in the Army and a family practitioner, family medicine. And my dad was actually getting his master's degree in biology. And so there was a lot. And my dad still, just for fun, will read like scientific journals and medical journals, like just because he's interested.
Yeah.
So medicine had always been around our family, and so that was my grandpa. My grandma was a nurse, and like my two generations, like it was all medicine essentially.
Yeah. But we're talking allopathic, or
Allopathic
was
medicine.
there
Yeah.
any part of the family that was like talking about their version of Qi
No.
or subtle?
No.
No. Yeah. Okay. I just
Yeah.
want to make that
No.
clear, because some
Yeah.
people, I get this question all the time. Well, you must have been raised in a family that believed that. And I'm
Right.
like, if you only knew my family, like,
Yeah.
no.
Right. Yeah.
No.
No, totally. Now,
Yeah.
I did find out my dad has been meditating since college, like
Yeah.
nightly. But I didn't find that out until like maybe 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I'm into the conversation.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice,
So
Papa
I
Joe.
can't remember ever like yeah, I can't ever remember any conversations about anything subtle. Like
Right.
it was more about like, find your limits, push harder, see how much you can challenge yourself. It was more
Kind
the
of like
other
that athletic
strong
mindset.
aspect of, yeah, like
Yeah.
how can you optimize, yeah, the threshold that you can handle, like
And not just even physically, you guys are a very
mentally.
intelligent family
Yeah,
too. So like mentally, academically, physically, in all
totally.
areas of your life, how do you optimize?
Yeah,
How do you get the most out of? How do I train for to be the
yeah,
best self? Yeah.
exactly. How much
Okay.
can I
So
pack in a day?
yeah. So now you are like, whoa, this stuff that I'm learning at school, I just felt in my body.
Yeah, and that subtle body awareness has only deepened over that was 2008, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and that one of my favorite I was about to call it a trick, but one of the favorite techniques that Danielle introduced and offered was just put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly when you're laying in bed
Mm.
and just feel. And if you can, invite a curious mind to see what you might see. No
And when you
agenda.
say that, see, you mean like inner sight. Like what
Inner
are you
sight.
like what are you seeing on the inside? What are you feeling on the
Yeah.
inside? So is your awareness like,
Mhm.
because there might be people who are like, I have no idea, but I love this idea, like having something
Yeah.
applicable that we can do right after our
Totally.
conversations, right? So hand on heart, hand on belly. And when you
Mhm.
say inner sight, okay, I'm gonna like bring my inner awareness, my inner sight inward. But when you talk about feel, are you talking about like the palm of your hand, or you just like feel anywhere, feel
Mhm.
everywhere?
Mhm.
All
Yes.
of the above. Okay.
All of the above.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It started out with just feeling the warmth of the hand on my chest,
Mm-hmm.
and that felt nice and soothing. And then feeling the hand on my belly, and I was just there. It was nice, whatever.
So really just notice
And
whatever you notice.
notice whatever you
Yeah.
notice. And what
Perfect.
I've noticed is that there's just a deeper and deeper and deeper level of awareness that blooms every time. And now it's like, wow, all right, what do I need to have shift? Well, let's just go lay down and put one hand one place, one hand in another place, and watch where my body wants support. And it's been such a phenomenal path to be able to facilitate and witness the miraculous nature of the healing body. It is constantly healing.
I love that because I know you still do that. I've seen you do it. And when I'm on
Mhm,
your table,
mhm,
you've had me do it. And I
mhm,
do it from, I mean, I do that anyway for other reasons even through my Hawaiian background, right? Like hand on
mm,
heart, one hand on belly to touch
mm,
in to that like
mhm,
inner space. But for those who
mhm.
haven't necessarily done that, that is such a great, that's your homework today, people.
Yeah. Right?
Go lay down, hand on heart, hand on belly. Like this is a real applicable um, practice
Absolutely.
to introduce yourself to this potentially foreign for some people idea of a subtle body. It's not your physical
Mhm,
body.
mhm,
It's not the spiritual side of your body. It's that in between space
mhm,
where
mhm,
chi flows, where prana flows, where the mind exists, where our
mhm,
thoughts are, where our emotions are, where all that innate healing
mhm,
activity
mhm.
moves
There's
around in,
totally.
where that
There's
wisdom that you're naturally born with resides. Like that's all your subtle body.
mhm,
And so bringing hand to heart, one to belly,
mhm.
and just notice what you notice.
With the mind, and the inner eye internally focused. Presence has got to be there too.
So
Presence
would it be helpful for someone who's never done this to close their eyes?
I would highly suggest laying on the ground and closing
Laying on
your
the
eyes.
ground, close your eyes.
Absolutely.
And then just notice what you notice. No judgment, no expectation, to just notice what you notice. I love it.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
The
me, I
self-
love giving homework. So that's our homework, everyone. Notice what you notice with your eyes closed, lying on the
right?
ground. Yeah.
The pathways to the subtle body there are so many, and I so appreciate, like in qigong, just the shaking, just that jumping and shaking for multiple minutes, for longer than your mind thinks that it ever wants to, and then
Yeah.
the pause afterwards. You know what I'm talking about. We've done this
Oh,
so many.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
little tingle, and like that's a much more tangible awareness of, yes, you can call it circulation, yes, you can call it energy, but there's a subtlety to that sensational awareness of where it is and where it isn't, and where it's
Mm-hmm.
most prominent and where it's not so prominent. And then
Absolutely.
the light, like how broad and how fine-tuned can the awareness be into that sensational experience of movement in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also love, just especially right before eating, like hand on heart tends to really help anchor this, but noticing, like, if I were to illustrate the energy of my body on a page, but without necessarily drawing it, or drawing it if it helps, but if I
Yeah.
could illustrate the energy, what color would I paint it? Where would I actually place the most strong, bold colors? Where is the energy of my body? Is it all up in my head? Is there a tension through the middle of my body? Am I totally relaxed? Is it like a Christmas tree? Am I just like, oh, relaxed on the outside, lit up from the inside? What is the sensational experience of the energy that I'm aware of? If there was a current to it, what would the current look like? Is it a torrential, like crazy storm? Or is it this calm lake? And
Yeah.
especially doing that right before I eat, I really appreciate, because of course that translates to our nervous systems, and how our nervous system, what state we may be able to recognize we're in before we go ahead and try and transform food and drink into vital substances.
Right, right, right. Yeah. Because if your nervous system is not in a place to receive, it doesn't matter how good, how textbook, how whatever your idea of perfect meal is. If your body's not ready to receive it, if it's
Totally.
not in a state of receptivity,
Yeah.
which we can translate to nervous system, parasympathetic, rest, digest, and breed,
Absolutely.
then yeah. So I agree. That's another great way to tune in and just notice. And it's so helpful. That one's so beneficial. Before we in the clinic, I love sharing, like sharing all these nourishing life, yang sheng in Chinese medicine is what we call it, but these nourishing life practices.
Mm.
It essentially, that's like the Ayurveda practice in the United States is all the nourishing life practices too. While Ayurveda is also a complete form of medicine, here in the United States right now, I feel like it's maybe a decade behind Chinese medicine in terms of its popularity and practice and accreditation and all the things. But Ayurveda also is very much about lifestyle practices as well. And people often want to know, like, what do I eat? Like, tell me what I eat to XYZ, like, just like everything else in life. Like, tell me that magic bullet that's going to get me to there, and and what I laugh about is because people want to focus on the actual food at first, right? Like, tell me what foods to eat and tell me what foods not to eat. Give me a list. And I have those lists. Those are easy. Like, you could actually Google them. You don't need me. Save your money. Go Google them. What they need us for is to remind them that it's actually more than that. It's more, yes, that is so important, but the state in which you are going to eat is just as important, if not more important. Because if your body's not ready to receive it, who cares? Why'd you go buy a whole new, pantry or refrigerator or whatever? if your body's not ready to receive. So we need to go even to the root. We say that all the time in our medicine, is like, what's the root? What's the root? We're always trying to get to like the root of a problem or a situation. So even when we're eating, the root is not always just like what I'm eating is wrong or what is beneficial. The root to that is, are you ready to receive your food?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that is the biggest invitation to optimize, or to invoking a relationship with the subtle body.
Yeah.
Because those two go hand in hand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because your nervous system, we can touch the nerves. This is really cool. So here's a good example of physical body, subtle body. We can touch the nerves. Like if you do a dissection, you can touch nerves, you can follow the nerve pathways, right? But we can't necessarily put a finger on the frequencies of the nervous system, right? But we know the nervous system is working because of the way the other tissues respond. Right? So for the person out there who's thinking about like, oh, like I'm confused by the subtle body, right? Like there's parts of the body we can actually dissect, we can touch, we can squish, we can pull apart, right? Like the nervous system is a perfect example of this. But we can't necessarily put our fingers on the function of the nervous system. We know the nervous system is working because of the ripple effects of the nervous system, right? Like you pee your pants, right? You urinate, like that we can touch that again, but the connection from the nervous system to the physical action, we can't really touch. We can trace it, right? We know we can show it through nerves, but we can't actually touch those pulses that create the physical body to move. And so that's how I like people to understand that there's a subtle aspect of our body. When we mean subtle, it's like we can't necessarily tangibly touch it, but we know it's there. We absolutely know it's there, right? Like our emotions. Everyone's had an emotion, but can you like grab it? Can you hold on to it?
This is matter that has no form.
Right. Exactly.
Qi, really.
Yeah, Qi. We're talking about Qi. Yeah. Energy.
It's matter that has no form. And like I appreciate the line of thought that you're going down, because the tangible nature of things is so grounding, and it's so reliable, and it's so obvious. And that oftentimes is the definition of trustworthy.
Right? Nurturing, trusting, your foot is going to land on the earth below you.
That is solid.
It's going to like press
we use to define trust and to describe trust tend to be very matter relating or matter oriented words. And the subtle nature of faith and trust and matter that is formless, the essence of the spirit, like the vapor, like Qi itself, like the character of Qi, steam, cloud, like the
from rice, right?
Yeah, exactly. It invites much more curiosity, that without a mind that's focused on the practice of attention and openness and acceptance and a reverence for an ethereal nature, when that's in place, there's a deepening of a reliability in that formless, intangible, subtle, miraculous, energetic quality that life is constantly providing. And if a mind hasn't necessarily been oriented towards honoring that, cultivating a relationship with that, being able to enjoy and experience that in a way that feels really enlivening, then I can absolutely understand how it may not be welcome and definitely not trustworthy.
Right? Oh, that's
Yeah.
crazy shit. That's what they're talking about. It's
That's
like,
the woo.
oh, the
That's the
woo, yeah,
woo.
the woo. But also vice versa, because we know this was me, like probably right before you met me. I would say I was in the opposite side of that same coin, which I was so into the subtle, so into the unseen, the mystical, the
Mhm.
chakra, the vibration, the all the unseen, that I could not even ground. I could not feel my feet on the ground. I could not understand why I needed the earth. I knew I needed earth because I liked food, but really, like, why do we have these meat suits? They're so effing annoying. It's getting in my way of being all just air and space and spirit. So it really is like interesting how, if you came from, and I didn't grow up that way, that was just like the spiritual awakening I was going through at that time in my life. But I was like really mad that we had these meat suits. Like, why do I need a body? It's getting so in the way, right? Like, which is also a reflection of all the ways I was not befriending my body, right? Like that is a pure reflection. And like, I know I needed earth for food, but it was so easy for me to also see like the pollution and the ways that we were destructing the earth. And so in some ways I could also see someone else being like, I don't see the nurturing part. I don't see how the earth and the physical gives me something I can trust. The only thing I trust is this other, the spiritual or the unseen part. But I bring that up because I think it's really interesting that trust, right? Like you use that word trust, I think is such, it's an easy thing to do and a super hard thing to do all at the same time, because I very much realize that so much. I've been thinking about this a lot the last 2 years. So much of what we learned in practicing acupuncture and opening our books and having like the first 20 pages just talk about Qi, right? It's not just like one sentence. It's like the first 20 pages we're talking about Qi. And you show that to people outside of our medicine. They're like, oh, there's 20 pages on this one concept. And you're like, and I think this is like the translated abridged version. Like these are the footnotes. So
and then at the end it'll say, and by the way, this is definitely undefinable.
Right, undefinable, exactly. And so there has to be,
undefinable.
There has to be this complete there has to be, not a complete, there has to be a relationship with trust in even opening the mind to something other than what you're orienting to. So whether you orient to like spirit and all is spirit, or maybe you orient from a place of like, all I've known is earth and only things I can touch, in order to come into this other place of being where so much magic lies, is trust. And if you don't have a framework for that personal trust in your life or trust for others, I could see how opening your mind up to other types of medicine outside than what you were raised around can feel very putting off. I don't know, is like, why would I open my mind or my heart up to that otherness?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Which also, sorry, I'm like, my mind just like also reflects kind of, and it reflects a lot of what we're seeing in the world is this lack of trust. I don't trust those people over there. I don't trust that political blah, 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 blah over there. I don't trust medicine anymore. I don't trust I don't trust news. I don't trust this. Like, it seems to be like, that's a really, I mean, now we're talking about like the spiritual work, right? Like that self-questioning work of why I don't trust. Because if you don't trust one thing, that's just a mirror for other things in your life that you potentially don't trust. So the root there being is like the trust, the underlying trust. That's a whole nother conversation. That's like a whole nother like, but yeah, I mean, you and I have studied and practiced and done the self-inquiry, but we've also just experienced it. At a certain point, it goes from theory, this idea that there's Qi in the body, or that there's a subtle anatomy, a subtle body. That's a theory, and I have to trust it. I mean, kind of like at school, just memorize it. Don't worry, it'll come later, right? Like there has to be that element of just kind of like jumping on the bandwagon and trusting that wherever that those four wheels are pointing is going to lead you into something that is that creates space for what you want in your life. Right? Because you and I think, I don't want to speak for you, but I know for me, I never want to think that I know more about what is good for someone's body than they themselves. Like every person is their own subject matter expert. But in a world where we've been stripped of all of that knowingness and that authority, self-authority, that inner authority, it's very easy to assume that the person in the white coat, or my acupuncturist, or my yoga teacher, or my bartender for all, I mean, I've been a bartender. People kind of treat you the same way a lot of time. Is that you know more about me than I know about myself. And I think this, go ahead, sorry.
Well, no, go finish your thought.
Oh, I was going to say, allowing yourself to open up to that subtle anatomy and to this idea that there is this life force energy, Qi Prana. I'd love people to email me or text me or voicemail me and let me know what their cultural name for it is, right? Like that life force energy. Because I know it probably has a million names.
Totally.
But touching in with that subtle body is a very personal and empowering thing that no one else can tell you if you're doing it right or wrong, right? Because it's right, it's you witnessing it, you doing it for yourself, you noticing what you notice. And no one can tell you. Your acupuncturist can't tell you that, your qigong teacher can't tell you that, your yoga teacher can't tell you if that is right or wrong. I think that is the meat and juice of one, the practice you shared with us, but opening our minds to the subtle anatomy, our subtle interior, is that no one else, like that's where you as a person, that's where I in this lifetime become, it's that connection to that inner truth. It's that connection to truth. It's that connection to trust. It's that connection to my inner authority. It's the connection to who I am, not what someone else is telling me or what I should be doing. So yeah, which obviously bridges to the spiritual nature of like, who am I? Right? That big question. But sorry, I cut you off and you were about to say something. So.
Well, I was just going to mention what you just said actually lit another bulb in my head. But the what I do appreciate is the relationship that one person has with their own subtle body experience is, I 100% agree, their own intimate relationship. And simply awakening the curiosity and orienting towards, do I feel something? What do I notice? How do I notice it? Like that relationship, of course, is as unique as the lens of the person who is looking at life itself. And I've had experiences where I know we both have shared a mentor in Michael Spatuzzi, and I've been training in craniosacral, and I would also categorize that the rhythms of the cranium of the occipital bone as a subtle body experience. And then he also has an incredible capacity to facilitate a learning environment of tangibly experiencing subtle energy. And there was an exercise I was doing with one of the other, very small, there are 4 of us learning from him. It was just amazing. And we're playing with, can we feel the levels of the energetic sheaths outside the body? And admittedly, I cannot. But we're going through the practice of what might it feel like to actually feel something if something was there. And I shouldn't be so harsh, like there was something.
Right.
But he had such a great capacity to then like bring my hand into, nope, here's the 4th, here's the 5th. And so, and I appreciated the guidance of, and there's great trust there. I know that he knows what he's sensing and feeling. Yeah. And I appreciated the guidance to like, oh, okay, is this it? No, that's not quite it. Oh, is that's it. I appreciated that a navigator who can actually sense way more efficaciously and reliably something to my tangible experience is just learning how to be aware of. So I agree that like, yes, the uniqueness of your own relationship with this subtle body awareness is yours. And it's important to have a great level of discernment for those that you invite into that guidance, because that's a whole nother topic. But the whole, like, there can be people that know a lot that don't necessarily have your best interests at heart.
Good point. Absolutely.
And I absolutely honor and am grateful for all experiences that I've had to give me that knowledge, that experiential knowledge. And I'm so grateful for the incredibly trustworthy individuals who have guided my subtle body experience, like Danielle, like Michael Spituzzi, and there are many others as well. And so yeah, it's both unique and your own, and it may also be benefited by oh gosh, Laura Styler also has a beautiful book on the
what's the name of it? Do you know the name of it? If not, we can put it in like show notes or whatever that is.
I believe it's called the Little Aura Healing Book. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And it is little and just packed full of such rich information for those who have curiosities on how to actually feel these subtle body things. And like, and have the courage to even step out onto that mythical rainbow bridge that you don't even know is solid. Because like if someone had said to me in year 2 or year 3, like I've already signed up to pay tens of thousands of dollars to go to East Asian medical school, and in that school when someone said, oh, I can see chakras, my orientation has definitely been bullshit. Get off your hippie high horse, like come back to reality. Like I've gone through that. And so I so honor where everyone is in their orientation towards what may or may not physically, tangibly, sensationally exist in this reality. And but that said, full invitation, because subtle body is just magic.
No, I'm so happy you brought that up, because one of the words you said was intimate. It is an intimate, like the subtle body work, either that you shared with us, or having someone work with you in that way, cranial sacral, Reiki, laying of the hands. I mean, it goes on and on. There's so many names out there for now, but all of those are working with this subtle anatomy. They're working with the subtle layers of being. They're working with Qi. They're working with your prana. And there is an intimacy there. I know, I don't know if you remember this at school. There were only like 4 people I let touch my body. If they weren't in class, if they weren't in needle class, or, like when we were practicing on each other, I peaced out. I was like, I'm taking my absence today. Like there are only so many people I trusted practicing needling into my body. Are you kidding me? Again, showing my own trust issues there, but yeah, it's a very intimate thing when we begin to move into the unseen parts of, the unseen, or the parts that we can't necessarily, like touch the way we're used to saying touch, right? Because it's so funny. I did my first engaging vitality. Have you heard of engaging vitality? Dan Bensky, Chip Chase, these are the names I'm remembering, Jack Radner. They did it, but they did it online. And it was like an intro to it this weekend. And I thought, let's see, because my experience has always been with someone in person, like they're in physical presence. And, I've enjoyed teaching online, which has been incredible. And you can definitely have connection, but like this idea of studying the subtle aspects of the Qi dynamics online, I was like, I just have to see how this goes. And I kid you not, teachers were so spot on in terms of like, oh, honoree, rest your shoulder. No, go down. And I was like, in my mind, because I am very sensitive to, I guess, the energies around us. I was like, oh, I definitely think I feel like I'm there. And the teacher was like, no, that's not it. Exhale and then move. And I exhale and move. And then they said, inhale. Now inhale and move your hand lower. And I kid you not, it was like, I had such a different experience with the Qi dynamic and the hand and the person. I was like, oh, you can totally do this online, which blew me away. Now my mindset for what is possible online just went like, it was already pretty open, but now it's like, whoa, I do not have to be in person, and now I'm starting to, I guess, I have not always believed, but in the last 20 years, intuitively in my inner heart, I have thought that quote unquote distant healing is possible, but I didn't really like embody it. It was all up here, right? Like, that should make sense because we're all connected and it's all vibration and, just theoretically. After this weekend and the online, I'm like, whoa, something just got a little more embodied. There is something possible about being able to transfer and or feel those Qi dynamics, not just across the screen, but across the globe, different states, different countries. And that to me is like both terrifying, but also completely exciting all at the same time, right? Yeah.
And how could you know it unless you've had a visceral experience with it? Like, how could you, like, conceptually, you can think something is possible, but how could you really know it until you've actually experienced something where you're like, oh, this is undeniable now.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Right. And I also wonder if that may be a function. We haven't really, it's probably another tip of an iceberg of conversation, but the collective consciousness and the incredible, like, tidal waves of awarenesses that have come online. I mean, just in many capacities in the last 2 years with the lockdown and people working remotely, and how much transfer of information it was already happening online, but then it was like this just tsunami came through of now everyone is doing a lot of collaborating online. And I wonder what that does to the collective consciousness of what is possible. Like, maybe all of this was possible before 2018. And maybe it was just as potentially as physically impactful. And maybe as there have been just massive amounts of exchange online, maybe it has actually gotten more visceral, more real, more tangible, more, I don't know. But
Yeah.
it's an interesting, I mean, and for me as well, more very recently, I have come to recognize the power of what's possible remotely,
Mm.
from a healing perspective, and like physical shifting healing perspective, like that. It's blown my mind of what's possible.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So as you say, you use your discernment when working with others, right? Because
Totally.
that intimate connection, it's almost like a tale of caution in some way, right? That some people are very good at moving energy and potentially doing it in a way that doesn't have your highest
Mm,
potential and healing in mind. Because are
mm.
you saying because, or not really knowing what to do and overclaiming something and then throwing energy out of balance? Like I don't want to like bring up fear, but there needs to be
Yeah.
caution, right? Like it's just like anything in life, right? We have to use our discernment. We have to feel a deep connection with someone, that there are people out there who manipulate and who overclaim. And
Yeah.
so just like in all parts, in all areas of your life, to build that rapport and know who you're working with. Don't just necessarily trust blindly, I guess. And at
Yeah.
the same time, you have to trust in some ways, but like I'm a huge fan of word of mouth, right? So if someone hears this and is like, oh, that Reiki thing sounds great, right? Yeah, you can Google anyone online these days. But that doesn't mean just because they have a website that they're the best. Like you're the perfect example. You don't have a website, no matter how many years I've tried to get you. I've literally built them for you and you're like, thanks. And you still don't use them. But like, just because you can find them on Google or Google Maps, or like, I'm really a huge fan of word of mouth, right? Like
Mhm,
find someone through word of mouth who you already trust, because
mhm,
then that's like a bridge between, if you already trust them and you know a little about them and then they're recommending someone to me. um to me that seems like a path worth following, rather than just calling someone blindly. Would
mhm.
you agree? Or
Another layer of authentication. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, like
Yeah,
verification. Yeah, it's like someone
absolutely.
verifying. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate bullshit meters. I really
I love
appreciate
that.
meters. And we all have them, and like 100%, like a lot of people will well, the skeptical mind is so valuable. And I
Hmm.
think a common misconception is that if you're going to believe in this woo woo stuff, in subtle body, and how your mind and your emotions have an effect on your physical body, if you're going to believe in it, you have to believe in it, and you have to throw your rational skeptic mind out the window. Well, I absolutely do not believe that that's true. I think that's a false statement. I think it's incredibly important to keep that skeptical mind intact. And sometimes it's good when you're in a situation where you know you have full trust, full safety. If you are, whether it's with yourself laying with your hand on your heart and belly, or you're with someone who you know you can absolutely trust, sometimes it's helpful to put that skeptical, analytical mind on pause for a moment and allow the other side of your mind to really experience what's on offer. But I absolutely, people will ask me if I have a new person who doesn't know me, and they say, well, I don't know if I believe in acupuncture. Sweet, don't.
Yeah, those are the best patients, actually.
Make me prove
Beginner's
everything.
mind. Beginner's mind.
Beginner's
Yeah.
mind. And like, be skeptical, ask
Hmm.
questions. Please keep your autonomy. There's no,
Yeah.
I don't want to try and convince you to believe in something that you don't know for yourself is true.
Yeah.
Just give it a try. Now, keep a little, crack the door open a little, please. Just crack the window so
Yeah.
that there some essence, some truth can come through in a way that maybe you haven't experienced before. But then absolutely wrap that thing up in your skeptical mind and see what you find. And
Yeah.
you can ask questions because I love to hear them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's such a good reminder.
Mm.
I think we have spent so much time, and we, you and I can do this all day, every day,
Yeah.
but
2 hours
getting
already.
late here. This girl's got her bedtime.
Oh my gosh,
Let's put a, whatever we call it, bookend right now. We'll wrap this up, and then we'll figure out what we're going to talk about next. But thank you so much for spending time. I'm just curious, what's in that beautiful drink cup of yours?
This is
What are you drinking right now?
This is Elevation. So
Ooh.
this is an old growth red tea. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see what's in my cup?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, I absolutely. So one of the main tea providers that I use is called Global Tea Hut, and it's where I get all my teaware. And this tea, the Elevation, is harvested, tended to by a farmer who was about to lose everything because he just couldn't keep up with the demands, or couldn't keep up with the pricing and demands and everything. And he's so dedicated towards organic and wild teas, and really cultivating tea in the way that it's really meant to be cultivated, which is incredibly labor intensive, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
And Global Tea Hut came in and said, we will buy everything that you produce.
Wow.
So literally gave him the financial security for him to be able to do his passion.
Oh, I love it. I'm gonna look that up.
I love this tea. It's just such a beauty, and like I feel like I can taste the heart of the man who like tended to the trees that made the leaves. And it's so easy to do a meditation with this tea because it's so full. It's so full. So
like he grew it with so much love and attention rather than needing to grow it out of obligation to pay a bill. And right, you can feel that. You can feel the difference.
Relationship. Yeah. Tending to something out of like just the reverence of nature and how it's meant to be cultivated, right?
Oh, it's real medicine. I mean, tea was the original medicine. It was the original aspirin. It was the original Dayquil and NyQuil, and
first thing.
Oh,
water and
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for your time. I adore you. I love you.
Love you. Adore you.
We'll do this again soon.
Yes. Hug Tad and the kids for me.
I will.
All right, love.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.